Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I'm Lucas, and today we're stepping into another set of intense Reddit stories. Real emotions, real consequences. If you enjoy stories that hit deep, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let's get into it.
I paid for a birthday I wasn't invited to. That's what I understood in the first 5 minutes, sitting at a long table in a Cherry Creek restaurant while my wife tossed her hair, laughed with her coworkers, and introduced me like a footnote. I had booked the room, ordered the cake, prepaid the bar tab. Nobody said thank you. It felt like I'd funded a party for strangers who liked the sound of her past more than the reality of our marriage. I'm an engineer. I like plans, diagrams, clean inputs, and predictable outputs. For weeks, I had run her birthday like a small project because that's how my brain calms down. She said she wanted something special this year. 35 felt like a mile marker. I hunted down the last Saturday reservation at a place with leather booths and a wall of bottles that glowed amber. I put a deposit on the patio heaters because Denver nights can turn on you. I paid for the valet. I told the manager, make it easy for her. Should I invite the guys? I asked a week before, meaning the few friends of mine who still live nearby, the ones who knew how we met at a climbing gym, how she'd beaten me up the auto belay and still teased me about it. Let's keep it work only, she said, quick. Different circles, you know? I swallowed that little sting. Okay, it's her night, I told myself. Not every party needs to be our party. I made a guest list spreadsheet anyway, color-coded it by department because she works in marketing and loves teams, then handed it off to her with a smile. She didn't look up from her laptop when she said thanks. The room filled with people I knew by name only. A creative director with a gold watch, a junior content specialist who said, like a comma, a VP with a voice that filled the space even when he thought he was whispering. They cooed over the custom menu I'd ordered, the sprigs of rosemary in the water, the little favors with her initials. They asked Kelly about campaigns and metrics and the time their agency got a billboard on I-25. Nobody asked me anything besides what I did, and when I said, engineer, they glanced down at their cocktails and nodded like that closed a door. It changed with a toast. A woman named Paige stood up with her Prosecco, her hand steady even after 2 hours of pouring. To Kelly, she said, who finally chose stability over passion. Everybody laughed in that cruel, easy way groups do when they think the target is safe. The punchline only works if nobody bleeds. Kelly grinned at me. It wasn't a soft grin. Yeah, she said. After my biker ex, Liam is like a house cat after a tiger. They roared. I felt my face heat up. 35 candles winked in the reflection of the windows, as if even the glass had an opinion. I picked at the corner of my napkin and tasted metal in my mouth. When they brought out the cake white frosting with a sugar peony that looked like it belonged in a magazine, the manager handed me the knife like I was supposed to play the husband in a commercial. Kelly leaned close enough for me to smell the champagne on her breath. Make a wish for me, she said. Then, louder, to the table, wish me real adrenaline, not your streaming weekends. It was clean in my head, suddenly. Wires sorted, lights on. I set the knife down. I put the jewelry box I'd carried in my pocket all evening. Rose gold ear climbers I bought because she'd once pointed at a pair online next to her dessert plate. The room went quieter in that anxious way people go quiet when the mood slips. Chairs creaked. Someone coughed. Happy birthday, Kel, I said, wishing you all the adrenaline you want, without me. I stood. I walked. I didn't throw anything or make a speech. I lifted my jacket from the back of my chair and left the door with the same manners I came in with. Outside, the patio heaters cast rings of heat on the ground. The valets looked at me like they wanted to be anywhere else. I tipped too much and drove home to a house that still smelled like the lemon cleaner I'd used that afternoon on the counters. I put the leftovers of her party favors on the table, little bags with white ribbon and tiny sugared almonds inside. It made me laugh. I took one, ate an almond, and let it bitter on my tongue. My phone buzzed. The first text was from Kelly, short. What the hell? The second came a minute later. You embarrassed me. The third, softer. Come back. I turned its screen down like a guilty thing and went to stand at the sink. The neighbor's porch light clicked on. Somewhere in the street, voices rose, then fell. I looked at my own face in the dark window and didn't recognize the jaw, tight as a fist. When anger sits down in your chest, it brings friends, shame, doubt, the urge to explain yourself to people who don't deserve your story. I let it play out. I let myself replay the jokes, the way her coworkers leaned in for more. Then I did what I always do when the problem is bigger than my feelings. I pulled out my laptop. Evidence is kinder than memory. It doesn't bend to make you the hero or the fool. I opened the shared Google Calendar we use for appointments. The event blocks for K35 dinner were neat blue squares. Under guests, there was a string of work emails. Mine wasn't there. Kelly had given me edit access for add-ons and payments on the planning doc, but I had never been added as a guest. A stupid detail, a simple one. Still, it felt like a line across a map. Here you can stand, here you cannot. I clicked to view the changes history. People think tech is magic. It isn't. It's timestamps and logs, little footprints that say who moved what, where. A week ago, she'd added a private after event in a different calendar. The title was just an emoji and a 2-letter word that could have meant anything. The location was a warehouse address in Rhino. I recognized from her stories, the ones with neon murals and people who dress like their lives are photo shoots. Guests included some of the same work. People, not me. She had also checked the box to hide the guest list from invitees. That detail went through me with a clean slice. I kept moving. I opened our joint credit card in my password manager and scrolled the month. There were charges I knew because I'd made them deposit to the restaurant, payment to the bakery, a florist order even though she owns a vase for every flower that ever grew. Then there were 3 rideshare charges that didn't belong to the dinner time frame, cluster stamped an hour after I walked out, 1 to a warehouse street, 1 to a downtown hotel, 1 back to a neighborhood we don't live in. I'm not a cop. I'm not a private investigator. I'm just a man who paid for a party and realized it wasn't for him. Still, patterns are simple truth. A line connects what we do to what we say. Her line that night had bypassed me. When she came home, it was almost 2. I heard the key in the door and stayed at the table with the laptop light on my face. Her heels clicked. She didn't flip on the overhead, probably thinking I was asleep. I didn't say anything until she turned the corner. "Oh," she said, stopping short. "You're up." "I didn't want to miss the after-party," I said. She exhaled, something between a laugh and a growl. "Don't do that." "Do what?" I asked, gentle as I could manage. "Say a true thing?" "That wasn't about you," she said, which was true in all the ways it shouldn't have been. I invited my team. Then they invited a few others. We went to Lucas's friend's place. It was nothing. "You said something about a tiger," I said. She flinched, then flared. "It was a joke!" "At me," I said, "in a room I paid for." "It was my birthday," she said. "You made it weird walking out like some martyr." "I made it quiet," I said. "You made it weird." Something shifted. The fight left the front lines and retreated to old trenches. "You don't like my friends," she said. "You don't fit in with them. You judge everything." "I bought your boss's favorite bourbon because you said it might help him like you more," I said. "I don't even drink bourbon." She looked at the floor, then at the window, then at me, like she was trying to line me up with the version of me in her head. "You're safe, Liam," she said, "and it's amazing how brutal a nice word can be when it drags contempt behind it. Safe, like bland. Safe, like small." "I'm not your seatbelt," I said. "I'm your husband." We slept 4 rooms apart that night. In the morning, she made coffee loud enough to make a point. I sat on the porch steps and let the cold sit on my shoulders. Denver mornings will humble you into feeling awake whether you want to be or not. Cars moved down our street with their breath showing. A runner huffed past, cheeks bright red. Around 9, my phone buzzed with a message from Paige, the woman who had toasted. "Are you okay?" she wrote. The kindness tricked me into opening it, and then she followed with, "I think you overreacted." Kelly was just telling her story. It's important to honor all parts of her. I typed and deleted 5 replies. I landed on, "Thanks for checking in." Then I blocked her, which is a boundary I didn't know I had until exactly then. At lunch, my friend Jonah called. He's the kind of friend who leaves voicemails that sound like a guy who would help you bury a body. "Dude," he said, "saw the stories. You okay?" "Stories?" I asked. He sent screenshots. Kelly's feed from the restaurant, the cake, the wall of liquor, the after party where she stood on a meeting table and blew a streamer. In one frame, her hands were on the shoulders of a man I didn't know. The caption was a lightning bolt and a tiger emoji. When you think something is small, you don't notice it. When you think it's big, it fills the room. "I paid for that," I said, not meaning the drinks. "You paid for something else," Jonah said. "You paid tuition for a class you shouldn't have to take." "What class?" "How to tell when someone doesn't know how to love you out loud." The second escalation wasn't a screenshot. It was our bank balance. Money is boring until it gets loud. Kelly had a personal card. We agreed she would use it for her stuff. We agreed I would use mine for mine. The joint card was for groceries, house, us. I had put her party on the joint because it was for us, and I wanted to honor that. Scrolling back, I saw charges that didn't look like us. Boutique gym day passes on days she told me she worked late. A gift shop inside a hotel I'd never stayed in. A payment to a dirt bike rental outfit down in Pueblo on the same Saturday? She told me she was at a client breakfast for a campaign themed around speed. When I asked her then how it went, she'd said, "fast," with a smirk, and I'd thought she meant the event. I guess she did. I brought it up at dinner like a man touching a bruise to see if it still hurts. "What's XLR Rentals?" I asked, setting my phone on the table between us. She didn't blink. "A client activation. Writing is edgy. It fits the brand." "You rode?" I asked, picturing the flurry of her blue dress waist deep in a group of suits. "I sat behind," she said, and because I watch how people say what they say, I saw the flicker in her eyes that meant behind who is a question she would rather I not ask. I set the phone down. "Did you tell me because you thought I'd say no?" Her fork clinked against the plate. "I didn't tell you because you make everything a safety lecture." I wanted to tell her that was projection. That in our house, safety was a synonym for care. That 2 summers ago, when I had a panic attack on Mount Falcon because a storm rolled in and lightning got too close to the ridge trail, she had sat on a rock and rubbed the back of my neck and told me I was okay. That person existed in a different room than this one. I could miss him without letting him give me orders. The third line in isn't always a person. Sometimes it's how the room watches you. At her office happy hour a week later. Yes, I went. I still believed in showing up. I walked in and felt the air shift in that way you feel when you interrupt a conversation about you. The VP clapped me on the shoulder like he owned me. "You? The adrenaline widow?" he said, and when he laughed at his own joke, his crown slipped. "I'm the guy who paid for your drinks," I said. He blinked. Kelly winced. I walked to the bar and ordered a club soda, which felt like a protest only to me. Paige slinked over in a sequin top that clicked when she moved. "You should come to more of these," she said. "You'll get used to it." "Used to what?" "To her energy," she said. "She's big. You're steady." "Steady keeps the bridge up," I said, "so the dancers have somewhere to walk." When we got home, Kelly was tight as a drum. "You embarrassed me again." "I answered the man," I said. You don't get our humor. Your humor is contempt with confetti, I said. You wrap it pretty and call it a toast. She sat on the arm of the couch and dug her nails into her palm. I didn't marry a biker, she said. I married you. You have edges. You just keep sanding them down. And you keep testing them, I said. We both picked roles. They don't fit anymore. There is a psychology term I found one night at 2 a.m. on a page I didn't bookmark because it felt too on the nose. Intermittent reinforcement. If you praise someone just enough unpredictably, you can keep them hooked on the next hit. Kelly was brilliant at that. A big kiss after she forgets your birthday. A weekend away after a month of taking shots at you. It wasn't calculated, I don't think. It was a habit that became a strategy when she needed to justify a life that needed more cheering than loving. I drew a line. I won't be made small in public again, I said. That's my boundary. If you cross it, I'll leave. Leave how? Like walk out of a dinner you paid for, she said. And I admired the precision of the blade she used to hurt me, even as I hated it. Exactly like that, I said. The point of no return was quieter than the party. It was a Tuesday morning, with frost on the trash lids and a sky so clear it looked like a new idea. My boss called to tell me a client had flagged my attendance at their off-site because they'd heard a story about me storming out of a restaurant. It didn't take a genius to trace the gossip river from the VP to the agency to the client. I don't work at a place where people have patience for that kind of rumor in the direction of unprofessionalism. I do work at a place where perception is a lever. I fixed their server room for 15 hours last month, I said, not meaning it as a defense so much as a twinge of pride I'd prefer they measured. I think they can survive that I don't like being mocked. We're keeping you on, my boss said. I'm just flagging that you should avoid any event where they try to make your life part of the entertainment. I stared at the kitchen tile until it focused. Copy that. I made a choice that afternoon. I moved $7,802.14 out of our joint savings into a new account in my name and printed a ledger that showed exactly where each dollar of that came from, mostly my income from a bonus and tax return. I canceled the extra guests for an upcoming weekend trip I had booked for us and a few of her coworkers to go skiing, which is a sentence so foolish I'm embarrassed to write it. I called the restaurant and asked them to refund the unspent part of the bar tab from the party to my card. They told me they'd already credited it to the card used for after-event rentals, which was a creative way of defining who gets the leftovers. I swallowed and said, "Thank you." When Kelly got home, I laid the ledger on the table next to a pile of receipts. "I'm documenting what's mine," I said. "You're making this adversarial," she said, eyes cool. "You made it adversarial when you brought an audience," I said. She stared at the papers, then at me. "So what's next?" "I'm moving out for a while," I said. "I've got a sublet near City Park, month to month. I'm not doing this thing where we injure each other in circles." She sat down and folded her hands like she was in church. "You're leaving me over a few jokes." "I'm leaving because I've been in a house where the air is full of contempt," I said. "And contempt is the thing that ruins people. It's the one they say in every study predicts divorce. I don't want to hate you. I want to stop early, before I rot." "You're dramatic," she said, and the old me might have begged her to understand. The new me nodded. "Maybe," I said, "but drama didn't make anyone break a boundary. Choice did." That night, I packed a duffel with half my clothes and the blue mug with a chip on the rim that fits my hand. I took the climbing shoes she gave me on our first anniversary and set them in the bottom of the bag, because the last thing I wanted was to give the story permission to rewrite itself until I became the villain and she the bright hero. We are not main characters. We are people who made choices and are now paying for them. Before I left, I put my own little jewelry box on the table, ear climbers shining in a neat line. I wrote a note on a piece of printer paper. I bought these because you said you liked them, I wrote. I'm not the kind of man who keeps gifts as weapons. Do what you want with them. I'm not coming back to take them. 2 weeks later, she asked to meet at a place on South Broadway that serves cocktails with smoke trapped in them. I ordered a club soda. She ordered something that arrived with a sprig of rosemary burning, smelling like a bonfire at a perfume factory. I miss you, she said. I miss you, she said. I miss you too, I said, because missing someone is not the same as wanting to be with the version of them who keeps you small. We were good, she said, eyes catching the low light. You just got careful. We were good on Tuesdays, I said. The rest of the week, you made me a bit. I don't fit inside that joke anymore. She blew out a breath, and the rosemary smoke made a small halo before it disappeared. I was going to invite you to a thing next Friday, she said. We're doing a campaign launch. It's at a track. It's cool. I won't go, I said. You could if you'd loosen up, she said. And there we were. The script written for us, her asking me to move my boundary toward her, me noticing she hadn't moved hers even an inch toward me. Later that night, alone in the sublet, I scrolled LinkedIn for no reason and saw that a man named Rex with a photo of a motorcycle helmet for a profile picture had liked 6 of Kelly's posts in a row. If I'm being honest, I checked his About section to see if he wrote like a tiger. He didn't. He wrote like a person who says, crushing it, too much. It made me laugh. It made me sad. I put my phone face down and slept in a way I hadn't in months. Months stretched. The world, indifferently kind, went on. I ran around City Park while geese hissed at me like cops. I biked Green Mountain on a day when the sky pressed low and felt my thighs burn in the exact place where rage used to. My landlord, an elderly woman with a cat that hated everyone except me, left zucchini on my steps from a garden that refused to learn moderation. I cooked badly and fed half of it to the cat anyway. Kelly texted sometimes. Once she sent a photo from Red Rocks, her face split with a grin, a man's arm across her shoulders. It could have been anyone. It could have been everyone. You look happy, I replied, and meant it, which surprised me and scared me and made me proud in a way that felt like I was finally being loyal to myself. On my 38th birthday, I invited the guys to a brewery near Sloan's Lake and brought a chocolate cake with a frosting job that looked like a child's attempt at topography. We told dumb stories about people we used to be. Jonah toasted me and called me a bridge in front of people who build and fix real ones, and everyone understood it was a compliment. I went home alone and opened the windows and let the summer air braid itself through the room while I fell asleep. At some point, when the calendar did that trick where it flips itself forward even if you aren't ready, Kelly sent a text. Can we talk? For real. I said yes and picked a coffee shop with ugly chairs and good light where neither of us could pretend it was a date. She came in with her hair tucked behind her ears, no makeup, the version of her I loved best and the version I couldn't live with anymore. I've been in therapy, she said, cutting right to it. I didn't get how mean I sounded. I thought I was being funny. My therapist says my humor is a shield. We all have shields, I said. Mine is facts. That doesn't always protect the people I love from the way I wield them. I'm sorry, she said. Not in that cheap way. I am actually sorry. I don't expect you to fix it. I'm saying it because you needed to hear it from me. I appreciate that, I said. I did. My chest opened a fraction in a way I hadn't expected it to. I'm moving to a smaller place, she said. Cheaper. I can't keep living like I'm on a poster. I need to be able to look at myself when I brush my teeth. I hope it has a window with good light, I said, and she smiled like we both knew how specific a gift that was. We didn't reconcile. The part of me that used to reroute around anything to keep us together had new work. It kept me erect when I wanted to bend. It told me I wasn't cruel for needing to be far. We split the furniture like adults who don't need to break chairs to feel done. She gave me the couch because she couldn't look at it without hearing the VP's dumb line. I gave her the nice pans because she always loved cooking more. I let go of the house we never bought, and the porch we would have stained, and the imaginary box of photos we would have kept under the bed for nights when we needed to remember us. A year after the party, I got a DM from one of her coworkers I barely knew. "I owe you an apology," she wrote. I laughed that night. It was messed up. I don't know why they made it a competition. You were always kind to us. I thanked her and didn't use her grace as an excuse to reopen any door. Closure, I've learned, isn't a door. It's a practice. You do it as often as you floss. On the exact date, my calendar told me with an unfeeling reminder titled K35 Dinner. A ghost I forgot to delete. I took myself to dinner at a small place in Lohi that doesn't do birthdays. I ordered 1 glass of wine and a steak I could have seared better at home. The couple next to me was on a first date and they were trying too hard. It was beautiful. The waiter dropped my plate and said, "Anything else?" And I heard myself say, "No, thank you, I'm good," and meant it. 2 days later, a LinkedIn notification blinked blue. Kelly M. viewed your profile. An hour after that, another blue dot. Rex M. is now an event specialist at... I muted everything and smiled. The past is a tire rolling down a hill. It hits the curb, it wobbles, it stops somewhere you can see but don't have to live. Somebody else can pick it up and roll it again. Sometimes I drive past the restaurant. The light in the bar is always the same warm amber, the kind you associate with good choices even when the room is full of bad ones. Across the street, a couple argues softly but keeps holding hands anyway, and above them, the sky does what it always does. In Denver goes wide, goes blue, goes on. Here's the part I wish I could go back and tell the version of me smoothing a tablecloth before a party he paid for. Nobody gets to make you the punchline of your own life. If they try, say your line and walk out. Don't slam the door. Don't whisper. Say it steady. Then find a room where your name isn't a joke, where the people at the table would never use the word safe, like an insult. Build that room plank by plank, knowing you will track dirt in and have to sweep. When someone you used to love says sorry like they mean it, accept it without giving back your keys. Wish them well and mean it, because you healed enough to wish anyone well. Do you think public disrespect, just jokes, just toasts, is a deal breaker on its own, or would you try to fix it no matter what it cost your dignity? When someone keeps calling you safe like it's an insult, how do you decide whether to prove them wrong or leave them to the kind of danger they miss? Like, comment, and subscribe if you want more first-person stories that tell the truth about love, pride, and the price of staying too long.